In today's video tutorial, I'm going to demonstrate a really fun drip cake design, which will feature a top tier that's covered entirely in chocolate candy. Okay, so what I have here is a 6-inch tier. This is 2 thick chocolate cake layers, and I'm just frosting as usual, but this time I'm frosting with ganache. I just thought I wanted to try this design with ganache, although I think the chocolate buttercream would be fine also. And I'm just gonna quickly take my bench scraper and smooth it. The frosting, of course, does not have to be perfectly smooth. Whoops, I should have glued this down. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth because we are going to be covering it with our chocolate candy bars. But I wanted to get a nice, pretty even layer of ganache. And at this point, you could go ahead and start putting on your candy, but what I want to do is let it firm up a little bit in the freezer. So I'm going to put in the freezer for about 10 or 15 minutes. Let me clean up this right here, top edge. Okay, so I've just taken my cake out of the freezer. It was in there probably for about 10 or 15 minutes until the chocolate had firmed up a little bit. And now I'm just neatening things up. You can go in with a heated spatula and just kind of skim over the surface of your ganache until it's nice and smooth. I'm making the top neat just because I think that we might leave the top so that we can see the frosting rather than covering it with candy. But we'll decide that later. Okay, so our cake is on its own cardboard cake circle cut down to size. And next I'm going to go ahead and start applying the candy. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I am going ahead and starting to apply the candy. I've already unwrapped a lot of our candy, and a lot of this is the miniature version of our little candy bars that we like. And so what I'm doing is I'm just taking the piece of candy, adding a little dot of our ganache, which I've put into a disposable bag with the tip snipped away. And we're just using that as our glue. And I'm just pushing it in. If your candy feels a little too soft, if it's hot in your kitchen, you're gonna want to chill it first before working with it, just to make it easier on yourself. And so we have all kinds of different candy bars. I'm thinking I'm going to let some of our candy bars extend past the top edge of the cake, but that's up to you if you'd like to do that. And also, I think it's a good idea to kind of pay attention to if your candy has writing on it. I like the look of them all facing the same direction. And that's really all there is to it. I'm just going to use just a variety of different chocolate candy. And we'll just kind of work it out as we make our way all the way around. Okay. So I'm just continuing to add our little chocolate pieces. For the really small spaces where nothing quite fits, I think I'll probably end up putting chocolate chips into those places. But it's up to you. I'm trying to cover as much space as possible, as much of our ganache frosting as possible with this candy. But if you'd like to space it out more, I think that could be pretty too. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to continue playing around with our design and adding more chocolate, and we'll meet back in just a few minutes. Okay, so I'm continuing to work my way around. I wanted to show you that now and then I'll put my candy bars at a slant just because I think it looks a little, ooh, got ganache on me. I think it looks a little more interesting that way. We're making a mess. Okay. And also, like when I do the slants and other kind of positions that don't quite match up perfectly, that's a good spot to put a small piece of candy like little M&Ms. I wish that M&Ms were sold just brown. but they're not. So instead I had these little fun packs of M&Ms, and they would only have maybe 2 or 3 brown ones in a pack. So I'm using these really sparingly. But I'm also using little chocolate chips. I think that's also a good little way to work in some chocolate into the smaller spaces. Okay. So anyway, you can see I don't have much more ground to cover. I'm just going to continue filling everything in. I think it looks really, really cute and interesting. And once it's all covered, I'm going to put it in the freezer for about 15 minutes until everything is nice and firm. And then we're going to decorate the bottom tier, add a drip, and then place the top tier on top. Now I am adding a drip to our bottom tier, and this is still with our 2-to-1 ratio of chocolate to cream. We just warmed it up so it's more of a dripping consistency, and I just apply pressure and then release it, and it just travels on down the cake. You can chill your tier a little bit before doing that step, and that will prevent the drip from traveling so far down the cake. And a lot of times I'll do a 1-to-1 ratio of chocolate to cream when I'm working with dark or semi-sweet chocolate and I want to drip. But in this case, since we already had the 2-to-1 mixed up, I wanted to really see if I could make it work. So at this point, as you can see, I'm just adding ganache to the top of the cake and just spreading it towards the edge so that it looks like the ganache is just spilling over. But doing the drip separately gives us more control of our drip. So I'm going to cover the top, then we'll chill it until the ganache firms up a little bit so that we can place our top tier. Okay, so now both of our tiers have been chilled. The candy bar tier was in the freezer for about 15 minutes. Then I moved it to the refrigerator and chilled this tier for about 15 minutes. So now they're both chilled, and I'm just applying a little bit of our ganache onto the top of the cake so that the top tier won't slide around. I also put 5 bubble tea straws in the bottom tier. So these are our bubble tea straws, or you could use your supports of choice. Just cut them all to the exact same size to the height of your bottom tier within the diameter of where your top tier will be sitting. Okay, so I had to take a sharp knife and just swirl around my turntable so that I could break the seal of the chocolate from when I decorated the cake. And so now it's loosened up and ready. I had something I wanted to be the front. I think this is what I wanted to be the front. Okay, so I'm just going to carefully, if you remember, we have a cardboard cake circle cut to the size of the tier beneath this cake. And I'm going to try to do this without destroying my chocolate pattern. And I wanted to chill the bottom tier because I wanted to firm up the drip. Okay, let me push this a little to the side. Okay. Okay, so our cake is finished. I love how this came out. I think it's such a fun and unique looking cake design. This would be perfect for the chocolate lovers in your life. It would also be great for birthdays, for groom's cakes, or even for Valentine's Day or Halloween. So I hope you'll give it a try. As you saw, it's really simple to make and so much fun. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.